For the Detroit Lions, there has been a lot of fascination this offseason about what the Lions are going to do about re-signing their own players. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about perhaps the biggest deal that most people are waiting on. Stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. It doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions fans, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in right now. So, here's the thing, folks. When we're talking about the Detroit Lions are by far and in large one of the most fascinating and one of the most entertaining teams in the NFL right now. And the reason why is because everybody is wondering what they are going to do to maintain and to further propel themselves than what they did in the 2023 NFL season. There's a lot of people that are wondering how the Lions are not only going to, keep their success that they had from last year, but potentially get themselves to that next goal, which is to get to a Super Bowl, to win a Super Bowl. And right now, the Lions have been, for the most part, not exactly the most active when it comes to the offseason. They've made a couple of signings, they've made a couple of re-signings, but when it comes to the Lions, the main question, the main interest that a lot of people have about the Lions is what the thunder are they going to do about the big contracts that are still waiting out there in the wings to try and re-sign for such players like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, and a couple of others. But I know for a lot of people, there's a lot of conversation about what's going to happen with Amon-Ra St. Brown's contract, because that's the one we've been hearing a lot of news about, because it has been reported that Amon-Ra St. Brown is on a contract negotiation right now with the Lions where it's supposed to be putting him somewhere in the range of about $26 to $28 million on average a year. And if you think about that to me makes a hell of a lot of sense, because it's like, hey, considering the production that he gives the Detroit Lions, the value he provides to us, the contract is definitely earned, it's definitely warranted. However, that contract is not the one that most people are still trying to figure out. They're trying to get a beat on. For that, it would be Jared Goff's contract. That is the contract that so far we don't really have a whole lot of information as far as what is the ballpark figure that the Lions and Goff are talking about right now. Some people have proposed that maybe it could be a 4 or 5 year deal around $180 million up to about $220 million. That's something like what some people are thinking. But again, we don't really know for certain what the actual contract figures are looking like because, well, there's not really been a whole lot of news. The only thing we know for certain is that Brad Holmes stated that both Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, they are aligned and they are moving forward in the contract negotiations, and that's it. Which, that really isn't a whole lot to go on, I'll be entirely fair and honest. So for Lions fans, this is a big deal for us. This is a huge deal for Lions fans because you really have to think about this for half a second here. This is a big moment. Because if you think about it, over the last 2 decades, the Lions have only re-signed a starting quarterback twice. And to be entirely fair, it was the same damn quarterback. It was Matthew Stafford. We re-signed him in 2013, and then we again re-signed him in 2017. Now, considering the fact that Matthew Stafford was the quarterback from 2009 all the way up to 2020, that would make sense for the most part. But the point of the matter is that the Lions have not really done a whole lot when it comes to re-signing their starting quarterbacks, because you want to know when the last time prior to Matthew Stafford was, the last time we handed out a re-signing contract to a quarterback? It was in 1997, folks, when we re-signed Scott Mitchell. Think about that. 2013 and 2017, and the previous time before that was in 1997. That means that for a very long time, whenever the Lions have had a starting quarterback, they have not brought them back. They have not re-signed them. They have usually moved on and tried to find somebody else. But yet right now, Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions, they are working on trying to get Jared Goff for a contract extension, a re-signing to keep him here in Detroit. So for the Lions, the move to extend or sign Jared Goff is a very big move because it's not one that this franchise has done really a whole lot over the last 30 or so years. Again, 1997 was the last time prior to Stafford that we re-signed a starting quarterback. That's a pretty damn big deal if I do say so myself. Now think about it this way. The fact of the matter is that as much as it's plainly and, as I've also said, painfully obvious the Lions are going to extend Jared Goff to a long-term extension, there are still some Lions fans that think the move is too risky or that the game for the Lions is going to be moving more towards a mobile quarterback, and that's the way it should go. However, though, we have to understand something here. Let's consider something. Let's first and foremost consider Jared Goff's track record with the Lions before we just simply write him off and say, oh, we have to get a more mobile quarterback. We have to have somebody else like Hendon Hooker take over for him. Let's again just take a look at Jared Goff's track record, shall we? First and foremost, Jared Goff is only one Lions there's only one Lions quarterback currently right now that has more playoff wins than Jared Goff. And that's Bobby Lane, the Bobby Lane. Jared Goff has 2 playoff wins with the Detroit Lions. The only one that's got more is Bobby Lane. He's got 3. Then think about this. Goff is 5th all-time for the Lions when it comes to passing yards and to passing touchdowns. He has 12,258 passing yards with the Lions, and he has 78 passing touchdowns. I'm just going to say this right now. By the end of the 2024 season, if Jared Goff doesn't get injured or anything, again, knock on wood, by the end of the 2024 season, I can personally guarantee you this. Jared Goff will be 3rd in terms of passing touchdowns, and he will be 2nd in terms of passing yards. Think about that. In 4 short years, Jared Goff will be in the top 3 and top 2 of all-time Detroit Lions quarterbacks. That's a pretty damn, massive accomplishment for him. Because if you think about it, the one that he would be passing up next to get into that lane, to get into that category, would be Bobby Lane. Bobby Lane, for his entire time while he was with the Detroit Lions, passed 15,000 yards, or 15,710 yards, 118 touchdowns. So he would be right outside of Bobby Lane and Matthew Stafford. For Jared Goff, that would be a pretty outstanding accomplishment to have in your name. And then think about this. Jared Goff is also the number 1, and I say this again, number 1 ranked quarterback in Lions history when it comes to pass completion ranking. He has a 66.5 pass completion ranking. No quarterback in Lions history has ever come close to that, not even Stafford. Then, if you think about this, Goff is also one of only 7 Lions quarterbacks to officially win some sort of a championship for the Lions. Whether it's been an NFL championship, whether it has been a division championship. Now, I know 7 quarterbacks, that doesn't sound all that great, but think about this, folks. I actually went back and I did the math on this. The Lions have had 36 primary starters at the quarterback position since they became the Detroit Lions in 1934. How did I determine that? First and foremost, I had to figure out, okay, which guy in each season had the primary most starts. And the way I figured that out is if they had more starts than anybody else in the season, or if number 2, they had more than half of the games started in the season. Now, there were some seasons where, hey, you know what? There were 2 quarterbacks that had the same amount of starts. They split the season. So I had to include both. But again, there are 36 primary quarterbacks that have started for the Detroit Lions since 1934. 7 divided by 36, that's only 19% of all Lions quarterbacks to some degree, to some level, have won some sort of a championship for the Detroit Lions. So when you think about it, who are those 7 guys? Well, obviously, Dutch Clark in 1935 won an NFL championship. Then you have Bobby Lane, who won it in 1953 and 54. Then you have his backup, who then took over for him and won it in 1957. You then have Eric Hipple in 1983, who won the Central Championship. You then have Eric Kramer in 1991, who won the Central Championship. You have Rodney Peete in 1993, who won the Central Championship. That was the last time we won a division championship. And then Jared Goff, who won the NFC North Championship, to follow up. Those are the 7 quarterbacks that have dressed in the Detroit Lions Honolulu blue that have won some sort of a championship for the Lions. So again, a pretty prestigious group for Jared Goff to be in, especially considering how Dutch Clark, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Bobby Lane, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. And again, who's the one guy that is not on that list? Matthew Stafford. Now, let's keep going down this little gravy train. Goff is also the first quarterback in Lions history in the last 30 years to win. Not in Lions history. The first quarterback for the Lions to win a division crown in the last 30 years. And he's won not only 1 playoff game, but he's won 2 playoff games in the same year. That has not been done in 66 years. So again, that is also impressive. And the fact that he got to an NFC Conference Championship game, which has not been done since 1991. So again, just this last year alone, Jared Goff accomplished quite a bit. Furthermore, Goff is 3rd in the NFL with the longest streak without an interception with 383 passes all time. He's only behind Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Both of them are Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And Goff is the only quarterback in Lions history to throw 25 passing touchdowns or more in 2 consecutive seasons. That one was hard to believe, especially considering Stafford. Stafford never got two consecutive seasons of 25 passing touchdowns or more. Jared Goff is the only Lions quarterback that has ever accomplished that. That's pretty damn prestigious. So, when you consider all that information that I just put out there, it would stand to solid reason that not only is Goff going to get an extension, but it's going to be a substantial extension as well. Because it's like, listen, Goff has accomplished so much that it literally has, to me, it's like, I can't understand why you wouldn't want to give him a contract extension. He's earned it. He's earned it in every single manner of the word from what he's been able to do for us this year and what he's done the last couple of years with the Detroit Lions. Now again, the issue for what I would say most people are going to say here is they're wondering what is it going to realistically cost to keep Jared Goff in Detroit. In a previous episode, I'll put that link back up at the top, I presented the possibility of a 5-year, $229 million contract. And that was because of the fact I was like, listen, if you're trying to keep the contract around that $45 to $50 million, you're trying to give him a decent amount of guaranteed money, that to me, as far as a mathematical comparative analysis, made the most sense to me. Because it's like, hey, you give him $100 million guaranteed, you spread it out to where it's about 45, 46, some million dollars a year, and you spread it out over 5 years, you're keeping the cap hit low, but you're also making sure he's paid well. SpotRack recently released, and I'm going to show a picture of this, they recently released a projection where they said that they thought that he was going to get a contract that was of 4 years, $180 million. That's where I was saying that, depending upon who you're talking to, the range that where Jared Goff could potentially get something in terms of value can be anywhere between $180 million to like $220, $230 million. It just realistically depends on who you talk to. And then again, we have to consider what has happened in the free agency market this offseason. There were 2 quarterbacks that got mega buck deals when it came to the free agency. That was Baker Mayfield and that was Kirk Cousins. Baker Mayfield's deal was not really that big, but it was still a pretty big deal for him. The real deal that's really got a lot of people's attention about how it's going to influence, Jared Goff's contract is the Kirk Cousins deal, which was a 4-year, $180 million for $100 million of it guaranteed. If that's what Kirk Cousins is getting, who has never been to a conference championship game, has a horrible primetime record, has a horrendous playoff record, whereas Jared Goff has been to 2 conference championship games with 2 separate teams and has been to a Super Bowl, that right there ought to tell you something. Jared Goff is going to get a pretty damn good contract. Again, it's just a matter of when it happens and how it happens. But I am going to say this. I truly believe that because of how well Brad Holmes has been able to negotiate contracts in the past, that the Lions are probably going to make this deal work for a lot less than what some people are thinking. Again, I put out $200+ million because I was like, okay, mathematically that makes sense. But again, we all know this about Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes knows how to get the best deal because he gets guys that want to work with him to stay with the team. And they're not always interested in, getting top dollar. Well, we also need to know about Jared Goff. Jared Goff has stated multiple times, money is not what interests him. He has said it. He's like, I've got more than enough money to live comfortably the rest of my life. He's like, I am interested in winning. The only other quarterback that I can think of when you heard that kind of a conversation talking about money was Tom Brady. And Tom Brady was notorious for taking constantly less than what he was valued at. So for me, it's like, listen, I think that Brad Holmes is going to be able to secure a deal that, one, is not only friendly to the Detroit Lions when it comes to Jared Goff's contract, but at the same time is still going to make sure Jared Goff is paid like a top quarterback. Again, if I recall correctly, Jared Goff is the 16th highest paid quarterback in the NFL right now. Not at all a top 10 paid quarterback, but yet he plays like a top 10 quarterback. Hence the reason why the Lions have been able to do so well, and hence the reason why I think the Lions are going to pay him like he's a top 10 quarterback. But again, finding a way to where it works out for both sides and making sure that the deal doesn't put the Lions in a bend, but at the same time making sure Jared Goff is paid the way he should be paid. So for me, I don't know what the Lions are going to do. It could be, maybe it's only a $40 million per year deal. Maybe it's 45. I don't know. All I do know is this. I trust Brad Holmes' ability, along with Mike Disner and the rest that are in the organization, to make sure the deal works for the Lions and to make sure that Jared Goff is excited and likes the deal as well. I have a total understanding of that situation because it's like, listen, there's no way I can see that Brad Holmes and Mike Disner are going to put the Lions in a dangerous spot. That's just not going to happen. And again, I truly believe that Goff is not going to try and bend us over the barrel. And again, when you think about how Jared Goff is in comparison to the Lions versus some other quarterbacks like a.k.a. Dak Prescott, who wants $60 million a year, when again, he is just as bad as freaking Kirk Cousins in primetime games and in the playoffs, and yet has had far substantial, much more talent on his team, and yet has done nothing. Again, consider how damn lucky the Lions are to have a guy like Jared Goff, who's not all about the money, but yet can provide the wins, can provide the leadership, can provide the performances, so that way we can have a shot to get to those games, like the conference championship game, like the Super Bowl. Just think about that for a minute and count your lucky stars. But again, folks, I just figured I'd put this episode together. Just wanted to talk about it because I know this is something that is on a couple of people's minds. It's definitely something they're wondering about. But with that having been said, I'm going to end the episode and say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, highly encourage y'all to subscribe. But I also encourage y'all please to do this as well. Make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure you guys turn that notification icon on, so that way as soon as I push something out, you guys are always able to come right back to the channel and you never have to wonder as soon as I push something out. Also encourage y'all, please, to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we share it, the more it spreads, the greater the channel grows, and the bigger it grows. And with that being said to everybody, I hope y'all are having a great day. I hope y'all have been doing well, and I hope y'all have something to make you smile. And with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. And I just want to say to you all, God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see y'all in the next episode.